Welcome to another edition of Comic Book Flashback. I'm Marley Cross 316, and we are looking at the Amazing Spider-Man issue number 67. This issue came out in December of 1967, and as we look on the cover, we see Spider-Man up against Mysterio. That's right, we had Mysterio return last issue, and so we are continuing in this second part to the story. This will be the concluding part to the return of Mysterio. Today's title is To Squash a Spider. And so that is exactly what Mysterio is going to be doing right here in this issue. I'm so excited to look into and continue this story with y'all. So let's go ahead and get started. As always, this is brought to you by Stan the Man Lee and John Romita. Stan doing the writing, and of course, John Romita doing the artwork. We have Jim Mad Moon Mooney doing the embellishment. And we also have Artie Simek on the lettering page. So let's go ahead and continue the story here. We pick off from last issue. We had Spider-Man fighting Mysterio in the last location that they had fought. And so now we see that Spider-Man appears to be 6 inches tall. So is this true? Is Spider-Man really 6 inches tall? Or is this just another trick up the sleeve of Mysterio? So we're going to have to figure out all of this, but it looks to us right now that this seems to be true, that Spider-Man really is 6 inches tall, and he's trapped on this tabletop model of an amusement park. And so Spider-Man is doing his very best to dodge the attacks of Mysterio here. And so we see that Mysterio has been planning this scenario for quite some time. And so now he finally has Spider-Man in his grasp, and he's doing everything he can to defeat his most hated foe, to the point of even killing Spider-Man. And that's exactly what he's trying to do. All of these things that Mysterio's doing, you could see that this is not just Mysterio trying his best to defeat Spider-Man. He's actually trying to murder Spider-Man. And so that's exactly what he's doing here. Spider-Man is just doing his very best, once again, to dodge the attacks of Mysterio in this one. A lot of great artwork, I'm just going to tell you right now, from John Romita. Awesome, just very awesome artwork once again. This is one of the better Mysterio stories that I've read. So I really enjoyed looking at this issue. And so we see that Spider-Man is going to dodge the attacks of Mysterio by going into this tent. And by going into this tent, he notices that he is going to be trapped with these mirrors. And these mirrors are going to start closing in on Spider-Man. And so that's exactly what happens. We see that Mysterio, once again, using these switches here. So it seems to us that maybe Mysterio is not really a giant as he appears to be. But Spider-Man doesn't know that. And so Spider-Man is being closed in on with these mirrors. Spider-Man notices that these are an attack. And we cut here. We have Aunt May. We recall that she had gotten ill by looking at Mysterio on the television. And we have Anna Watson here, her best friend, looking after her. We have Dr. Bromwell. He's going to come over and check on Aunt May. He notices that the door was completely shattered and broken into. That was caused by Peter Parker last issue when he rushed into Anna Watson's house here. And so we have Dr. Bromwell. He's going to be checking in on Aunt May, and he notices once again that Peter Parker is not available. He is not there to check up on his aunt. So Dr. Bromwell does not really respect Peter Parker that well. We also see at the Daily Bugle that we have Jameson here, and he is pretty much furious as to why Spider-Man and Mysterio have not shown their selves, basically, to the public. That we saw that Mysterio last issue had made a threat to Spider-Man, but now it seems that Spider-Man and Mysterio are gone. They have vanished. Well, that's true because Mysterio at this moment is trying to kill Spider-Man. And so you see that Ned Leeds is going to get on the case here. He tells his good girlfriend here, who is Betty Brant, that don't be late for the dinner tonight. They are also engaged, as we have seen in past issues. So they are not a married couple yet, but they are definitely engaged, Ned Leeds and Betty Brant. We also see that Joe Robertson here wants to make a phone call to Captain Stacy to get more word on Spider-Man, as both Captain Stacy and Joe Robertson are investigating the person of Spider-Man. They are both interested in who Spider-Man is. So now let's return to Mysterio and Spider-Man here. Spider-Man's doing his very best to attack Mysterio and try to be on the defensive here. And we see that if Spider-Man smashes these mirrors, they will cause him to basically be poisoned, as they are filled with lethal poison here, as we learn right here. And so what Spider-Man's going to have to do is he's going to have to use a lot of his webbing to shield his hands so that he can break the mirrors. And so that's exactly what he does. And upon doing that, he dives into this big gulf of water here, and he is carried along by this current here, so he cannot fight this current. It seems that Mysterio is now trying to drown Spider-Man. So one thing after another, Mysterio trying his best to murder Spider-Man. He even tries to kill Spider-Man with this axe. And so Spider-Man leaps out of the way. He grabs a hold of the axe. I mean, Mysterio is just, this is like a murder, like a scary story here. Just a very scary movie in a way is what it reminds me of. And so Spider-Man is just doing his best to survive here. We see that once again it looks like Mysterio is a giant, and so this is really true. It has Spider-Man shrunk to 6 inches. And so then Spider-Man's like, oh, he has to fight this big serpent here that's going to try to squeeze the life out of him. Spider-Man's still doubting that this is all real, but to us it looks like it really is. And once again, Spider-Man is trying to figure out, how is Mysterio doing this? How is he doing this where I'm 6 inches and he's a giant? Well, Spider-Man is going to continue to think, but let's now look at Captain Stacy as he gets a phone call from Joe Robertson, and we see that Captain Stacy has not seen Spider-Man as of late. And then we are introduced to Joe Robertson's son, Randy Robertson. He makes his first appearance in this issue, and it looks like Randy Robertson has enrolled into ESU, and so Randy Robertson may encounter Peter Parker on school campus soon, so that's pretty cool. We're introduced to Joe Robertson's son here. Now let's continue and conclude with the story. Will Spider-Man be defeated by Mysterio? So let's go ahead and look right here. We see that Mysterio lunges a knife, a giant knife that is, at Spider-Man. It almost contacts Spider-Man, and Spider-Man touches the knife to see that it's real, and it actually is real. And so Spider-Man webs up the knife here, lunges into Mysterio, and it seems that every time that he tries to attack Mysterio, Mysterio vanishes. And so Spider-Man's like, this is just not making a lot of sense, but all of a sudden he sees at one of the towers is a beacon of light. And so Spider-Man swings to that light, and lo and behold, there is the real Mysterio, life-sized and all. He webs up Mysterio, and Mysterio has now been found by Spider-Man here. Spider-Man was not 6 inches tall. It was all an illusion here. And so Spider-Man is now going to tackle Mysterio, lands in a few punches here, and Mysterio is defeated. Spider-Man burns the costume of Mysterio, and now Mysterio will be left for the police to handle. And so that is how we end today's issue. We see that Spider-Man swings off here, and we also have a group of students protesting, and Spider-Man says that he will not get involved, but as we see in the next title, Spider-Man will get involved with this protest at ESU. What is this all about? What's the protest all about? We'll find all this out as we look at issue number 68 next time. I hope to see you there, and until next time, subscribe, and I will see you next time.